Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh, thanks to Empire Properties. And of course, thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management. Giglio is on the cloud now, but you can't take the old print man out of Giglio. Yellow Pad is officially back, baby.
I bought 4 of them. Should last me the whole season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I bought a Trapper Keeper. Welcome to school.
You know, the boys had that in elementary school 1 or 2 years, and then I thought they would like it. They
didn't like it?
No, they get their organizational skills from me. So
okay. So they got stuff.
You know how that goes.
Look, I like to tell this to people. If you ever wanted to get a sense of how Joe is versus how I am, just look at our walls on our respective screens, our backgrounds. Okay. Mine's a little more organized, slightly more organized. Slightly.
Okay.
Slightly. No, but we're getting organized now.
We need to get Jonathan Randall in here just to really get the.
Oh, that's just empty fast food boxes on the floor. That's what that is.
The real contrast.
Look, man, I forgot who I was talking to about this, about old dorm room habits and just cleanliness and just guys being dudes being guys type situation. And there was a guy that I went to high school with, the Cardinal Gibbons. His name was Matt Casey. And there was a guy that I went to high school in Florida who randomly ended up going to NC State. Like, I didn't know this. I lost touch with him. Guy's name was James. And next thing you know, I'm on campus and I see this dude that I went to Boca High with. I'm like, what?
What are you
doing here? Right? So he explained, yeah, I'm here for textiles. You know, he ended up going to work for some large company or whatever it is.
Clearly from Florida.
Yeah.
Because it's textiles in North Carolina.
You're correct. So anyway, I put James and Matt together. Like, hey, here's a guy that I know. Here's a guy that I know. You guys are looking for roommates. Cool. They lived in Syme.
Okay.
All right. So they had one of these corner rooms.
Other side of the conference there. Yeah. Not my side of the world.
And mind you, this is when Riddick was still up, the old stadium.
Yeah. Yep.
So they had a corner room at Syme. They put a couch up. 2 things that they did that I'm still to this day I remember. One of them was they stole a tree from the fairgrounds. They did not get a proper size, so they went full Griswold on a Christmas tree in the dorm room. They'd like cut that thing in half to fit that thing in.
Steal a tree.
They jumped over the fence, tossed the tree over the fence, and then took it back to the dorm.
Okay.
But the gross thing that they did was they had a love seat up in the corner. And all they would do is they thought it would be funny is that every time they have a drink, a can of beer or a bottle of beer, they just tossed it behind that couch to see how long they could go. And then when the end of the year happened, they would pull it out and see how much they had. It didn't work that way. It started to overflow. It started to stink. And that created a whole list of other problems. All of that is to say, I can see that's Jonathan Rand's car. Just the back seat of the Dart. Some people live like that.
The Dart.
Some people just live like that.
Hoping he texts me one day and just, hey, here's my new car. You were right.
But you know, there's going to be a fast food box in the background of that car. We digress. Hell of a start to the show today.
Copiers Plus, our friends, get yourself some data management, copiers-plus.com. Maybe you don't have tickets Thursday. Go check out the Raleigh Times, man.
Mm-hmm.
Greg has redone that upstairs bar area. It's got a little bit more of a sportsy feel. Lots of NC State stuff up there over from our Empire Eats and Empire Properties friends.
We've talked about Carolina a lot going into this week because they actually have a real game of consequence against Minnesota. And it'll come up when we talk to Wes Durham a little bit later on in today's show. We haven't spent too much time talking about NC State because it's just Western Carolina. The game plan against Western Carolina is do what you need to do, get out of there healthy, and get ready for Tennessee. You made reference to this yesterday when we were talking about Florida State and Georgia Tech. Hey, Dave kind of understands what they have this season. And you better start the year off against Western Carolina on a Thursday night at home before you have the biggest game of the season, before the next biggest game of the season, which is Clemson. And you went to Dave Doran's press availability on Friday. I think it was a doubleheader. It was Dave and Boo, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you asked Dave, I have the clip here, thanks to our friends over at Pack Pride, where you essentially asked Dave if he's the one who knocks or he has to be ready for the one who knocks. I thought his answer was interesting.
A couple more questions.
Dave, for those first 11 years, if not all of them, there's been a monster in the ACC, whether it's Florida State or Clemson. When you look out of the landscape of the expanded league now? Do you see a monster in your way?
I don't even think about it like that. I think the thing that we've done over time here is be able to beat everyone we've played on the schedule at some point in time. There used to be a time where you look up and they haven't beaten this team in 10 years. They haven't beaten it, and that doesn't happen here anymore. We can beat anybody on our schedule, and our kids believe that. And so there's a belief. I don't know, because I really don't study everybody that we don't play. And there's some good teams we're not playing too this year. But I don't look at it that way as much as I look at what are we going to be, and I hope that we're a monster for people. I really do. Time will tell, and hope we're a good monster that way. We're not, hurting ourselves along the way, but that's why we play the games.
Joe, he was so close, man. He was so close to going full Walt Brady. That's what we need out of Dave Doran this year. I am the one who knocks.
Let's go. I actually think the best part of what he said was that we don't beat ourselves, because his best teams have had those opportunities. And we could point to penalties here. We can point to turnovers there in those missed opportunities. You and I have had a fundamental disagreement, long running, about the division format and what was really in NC State's way. You always kind of have said it's more so NC State than the specter of Clemson and Florida State. Obviously, it's a little bit of a combination of both things, because we've seen other teams take advantage of it, right? You had Pitt in 21, the year that State lost to Wake Forest in a 3-point game down in Winston-Salem. We've seen other teams, like even Louisville last year, right? They took advantage of that scheduling roulette. So I think that's what the real opportunity is here for NC State as we go into this season, as we start thinking about the year of the wolf and how does that impact football, and what will this look like with a mostly, I think, satiated fan base, right? Like, I think there's a sector out there that says, oh man, there's all kinds of pressure on State and Dave this year to keep it going, to ride the wave, to keep that year of the wolf going. I kind of see it, and I see it through the lens of 22, which was when State was picked by some, like myself included, to win in 22. It was, oh my God, this is it. It's win or else, right? Playoff or bust, ACC championship or bust.
Yeah.
And I don't look at this year that way for NC State, in part because you have the success of the spring behind you. You have that in your back pocket now. You don't have that general overall thirst. And you also, I think, there might not be a monster out there, but we definitely know that NC State shit's not out there anymore either.
No.
So I think there's a completely different dynamic to the outside part of NC State's season. Now, the inside part of their season, you got to look at that schedule and go, that's very manageable. You got to take it. Now, Louisville did take advantage of that last year. Now, you have to take advantage of that this year. You have to find a way. You can't say for all those years, if only we were in the Coastal, we would have won all these different divisions, won all these titles, and put ourselves in a position to do all these great things, without now actually having that opportunity and making the most of that opportunity.
You just keyed on the part about NC State that has been the most vexing for Dave Doran's entire era. And that is, and we saw it last year, and Dave called it out, and we give credit to Dave Doran for calling it out, repairing it, and then salvaging the season that they had.
Yeah.
They hit that low point after the Duke game. And what did Dave say, right? He's like,
penalties, we beat ourselves, we beat our position, lined up in the wrong spots.
That's on you.
Yeah.
That's on you. And there have always been those moments where NC State fans, and I'm sure Dave Doran, kicked themselves because they had those moments. Is this the year where they can actually put it together consistently throughout? Because it's all there for them. If you get straight up beat by Tennessee, there's no shame in that.
Right.
If they go out there and they lose to Tennessee because of penalties, because of turnovers, which Dave, we all understand, truly hates, well, then that's going to be on NC State again. It's and identify what your problem is. You know what you want to be, which is a mistake-free football team. Now, again, we're dealing with college kids, and you're going to have those things that happen to you week in, week out. And Dave Doran it's entirely possible that he can salvage a season after potentially getting beat by Tennessee. That's all there for him. The fundamental difference.
But figure out a way to excel without being pushed to the brink, without having the loss, without having the calamitous, loss and defeat happen to you. Win without disaster.
That's what I was getting at. We all kind of know the story arc for NC State football with Dave Doran. it's like any other of these streaming shows.
It's 11 years. I mean, this is not a new show.
Yeah, it's not a new show. And sometimes, there's comfort in the show. Like if you watch any of those shows that's streaming right now, they all kind of have a cadence. Okay. And sometimes there's some time filler in there when, this didn't need to be 8 episodes. This could have been 6 if you just kind of got to the meat of it, right? But they all follow the same cadence. And that's the problem for NC State. It follows a cadence. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that cadence because it's produced some pretty decent seasons. But are you finally going to have a breakthrough year? Are you going to have the type of season that gets people to remember it forever and not another season 8 of Game of Thrones, if you will, that people go, what the fuck was that, right? So that's, I think, the fear in everybody's mind with NC State is they're worried about having that situation play out again. Dave's talked a good talk, man. We've talked about Mac Brown and the PR and everything else. Dave is also really good, and he's honed in on the kind of message he wants to have NC State be perceived as. And this is why I asked Dave Doran this question back at ACC kickoff. Now that you've had a couple years at this with the transfer portal, with NIL, you know what you want to be. You can identify who you want. And we referenced it yesterday when we talked about Mike Norvell and their transfer portal. How'd you put it? Sometimes you get the year where you get the kid from Albany. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Last year, they thought Brennan Armstrong was going to be the answer for them early. Robert and I pair him up with Brennan Armstrong. You've got a dynamic playmaker in Casey Concepcion. It got off to a very, very rough start. Of course, they bounced back because that's what Dave Doran teams do. All right. You have another crack at it with Grayson McCall and Robert and I. You added what you needed to add for depth at running back and at the wide receiver position. To not just one guy.
Not just depth at running back. I think they had, even with, the guys that they had 2 years ago, Bam Knight. I mean, it was like Ricky Person. It was like these guys, like they're good players, but something was not clicking in that running game.
Nope.
And some of it was the offensive line that somehow put 2 guys in the NFL as well, by the way. So it's like you got to have all these things kind of going in the same direction. You bring in an eye last year with Armstrong thinking, well, the offense is going to be this. We're looking at Virginia 21 and Brendan Armstrong was slinging it all over the yard. They had 3 guys with at least 50 catches and 750 yards.
We might have underestimated what Virginia had in those skill position players.
So now you go back to the drawing board, you go back into the portal and you go, okay, we're getting Grayson McCall, a 6th-year guy. 6th-year guy. This is not somebody fresh off the boat here. Okay? This is a veteran. This is a pro. And you got a guy, you're bringing him in, and you've put really good players around him. Whether that's Noah Rogers, a scratch-off ticket from Ohio State, right? Whether that's Jordan Waters, a guy who was a proven commodity at Duke.
He was.
At running back. Whether it's another kind of scratch-off in Hollywood Smothers from Oklahoma. Then you've got Justin Jolie, who might be my favorite part of this equation.
Okay.
The tight end from UConn. I think he could have a gigantic season. Because when you have a good running back that you got to respect, and you got good guys on the outside that can stretch defense,
2 good wide receivers.
All of a sudden, that tight end becomes your best friend.
Sure.
And I think Jolie is the kind of player that could have just a huge productive season for NC State this year. But all of those things have to happen, right? Like sometimes you and I know this. It's easier to do what you know. And what that was last year was, okay, we got KC. What are we going to do with him? Well, we're going to run him on the jet. Oh, we're going to pop past him. Oh, we're going to send him out. Oh, we're going to run him on a sweep. Hey, we're going to toss him the ball. We're going to let him throw the ball. They were super creative, Torrey Holt style, Michael Caine, Torrey Holt style with Kevin Concepcion last year. Well, now how do you keep him happy too? Because by the way, he's used to eating at a certain level. I didn't even know this until I looked it up. He had 71 catches last year. The next highest player had 28. That's a difference of 153%.
That's
150.
That's crazy.
Preposterous.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Even Big Game had more options around him with those teams.
Yes.
Even Jamie Barnett threw to other guys every now. Mark Thomas caught a stray every now and then.
Hey, you put some respect on the XFL legend Mark Thomas. Okay.
Even he got some reps in there. I mean, I don't think people realize how dependent they were on Kevin Concepcion last year. That's a completely different mode and dynamic this year. You have all these different guys. Now maybe you do see a Nye and his creativity, not only from Virginia and some Syracuse at work here.
But, and you put this on Yellow Pad, you tweeted this out, I pulled it up on YouTube, and it's one thing that I think NC State, and I say this, crediting Dave Doran for being able to manage the adventure that has been quarterback. Last time NC State had a steady QB. This is your guy. You're sticking with him regardless of injury, benching, all that kind of stuff. Do I have that right? 21 with Devin Leary.
Yeah, only once in the last 5 years that they've had it. I mean, you've had all kinds of situations, all kinds of changes, all kinds of injuries, and all kinds of scrambling. Last year, I still don't think we're giving Dave enough credit for what he did last year with MJ Morris.
No.
And not only bringing him in, but then adjusting after his family was like, yeah, you know what? We're not playing anymore.
We're good.
So I think they did remarkable work. But the truth of the matter is to finally win your first title. And he did say this in the press conference. And I will give him credit. He's been on point with this message. He's talked about, yes, it's good that we've been consistent. And yes, it's good that we've been winning games at a higher clip than really this school has ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
But, he's even now finally used the words that I've tried to explain to him back in 2017. You've been good, but you haven't been great. This is your opportunity to be great. And I think all of the success from the spring is a little bit of that confidence that you can ride as a school that Debbie had talked about at the Sports Podcast Festival. Sometimes you have to see other people in your room and at your school and all your peers have that success. And not only does it say to the rest of the fan base, yeah, this is possible, but it motivates you to be like, man, I want to stand up there. I want to be the one that people are cheering for. I want to be the one people are having parades for, not just going to them and watching them.
DraftKings is back. Use the promo code OG24. When you do that ahead of week 1 for college football, you will get bonus bets. OG24. New customers bet $5. You'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. And with a full slate at week 1, starting up on Thursday night with NC State and Western Carolina, you've got North Carolina and Minnesota, which I'm going to get to here in a second. What I love about the bonus bets is that you can have some fun with them, right? So the one thing I love to do that Giglio absolutely hates is the pre-made parlays, which I hope we'll have an opportunity to make some more of those. And there's one for Carolina called Carolina on the Grind, Joe.
Okay.
This is for plus 1,100. North Carolina to win at Minnesota. UNC, Minnesota, over 50.5 total points.
Gross.
Coastal Carolina to win. And Coastal Carolina over 55 points. That's Carolina on the Grind. 2 games.
Tim Beck? You're riding Tim Beck?
Yeah, that's this has 457 bets placed for plus 1,100.
That's all I will say to you. Caveat.
Yeah, we talked about it with NC State and everything else. Hey, there's a top ranked parlay. This is a 5-leg parlay. Alabama minus 31.5 versus Western Kentucky. Notre Dame plus 3 at Texas A&M. Michigan minus 21. Fresno State. Arizona minus 31 with New Mexico. And USC plus 4 versus LSU. That's plus 2,300, Joe. I love these bets.
My play of the week has actually Western Kentucky plus 31.5.
All right.
I'm ready. I'm ready to start fading the tide. Get Dimitri in here. Let's go.
So score big with DraftKings all college football season long. You can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code OG24. Again, that's OG24. New customers will get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
Housekeeping brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online. ENOVANA.com. Green Cleaning Solutions.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
As I mentioned earlier, OG Fans is live. We've been dropping podcasts. We got that 5th episode of Ovies and Giglio, the mailbag exclusive. Again, go to OG248.com. Brownlow wrote about the Carolina Panthers yesterday. Giglio's going to have a newsletter drop today. We'll have some Canes coverage later in the week with our guy, Tom Edwards. And Lauren Brownlow will write some pop culture stuff as well. The newsletter is a go. So if you haven't signed up yet, go to OG-trianglemedia.com. And it's $13 a month. That's the entry level. You can save a little money if you buy for the entire year. That's $143. And of course, we got that Founders Club at $200. We're going to throw in some gifts for you as a member of the Founders Club. That's going to be capped, by the way. That's just a 1-month thing that we are doing as we are on our way to the start of the football season. Speaking of the football season, we're going to be at Longleaf on Thursday, a tailgate before the tailgate. Pre-tailgate before the tailgate, as we've got NC State and Carolina in action. So drop on by Longleaf Swine. Speaking of tailgates, you might need some ice. You might need some beer.
I need some Gatorades or something.
You got to hydrate, right?
Hydrate. Yeah.
You might need a parking spot.
Ooh.
For Thursday. You might not have that sweet tailgate spot, but you're looking for easy access to the stadium. Guess what? Breeze Through has spots for you on a first come, first served basis. And the food truck will be there. So load up on
Food
those.
truck's really good.
Dude, load up on those fries, baby. That's where it's at. Check out breezethrough.com. Get your tailgate stuff at various Breeze Through locations, strategically located outside many FBS programs in the state of North Carolina.
It's funny how that works.
You know, that should be used as a recruiting pitch. Don't go to Georgia.
Somebody had that on a cookout or as a Waffle House,
Yeah.
I think it was. Like, we have the closest Waffle House that anybody.
App State's got a 2-story Wendy's. That should be used as recruiting. You know what? Breeze Through. There's one right there. Use that for recruiting. That's what it's all about. Big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer. You might have some fantasy football, like we're going to have fantasy football.
Mm-hmm.
You might need to come up with some rules. You might have some sort of bet about who has to do what if they're dead last. I don't know, maybe write in a contract. Contact Whitaker and Hamer. They can do that for you. WH.lawyer, attorneys and counselors at law. Maybe you don't want to be stressed out while you're watching football this weekend. There's a new and exciting way to watch football, folks. It has nothing to do with beer and everything to do with our friends at Nature's Relief. They've got a tax-free shopping weekend.
Oh, good.
For Labor Day.
Yeah.
So head on out to their various locations. Check out naturesreliefhempstore.com. That's RELEAF hempstore.com. And we're going to be at the OG location off of Glenwood Avenue.
Mm-hmm. Holly Ridge.
Holly Ridge. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be there. And then who knows? Maybe you'll see us post up at O'Malley's after the fact.
We will be there September 12th. Thursday, September 12th.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, he is Wes Durham of the ACC Network. Week 1 is here, Wes. Let's go.
Is that my special, like, bump in the OG podcast with the golly?
We can make it that way. We got a new shirt that's dropping on Tuesday next week after Labor Day.
Okay.
I hope you all like the Carolina Cougars. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, man. Pogo Joe Caldwell, Billy Cunningham, Matt Calvin, Tom Owens.
Let's reel off the Carolina Cougars,
Danny
baby.
Manning's dad, Ed Manning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm to understand you saw some Carolina Cougars games. Is that what you're telling me?
Lots of Carolina Cougars games. Did I ever tell you guys the Wilt Chamberlain story?
I mean, there's all sorts of Wilt Chamberlain stories, if we're being honest.
There are.
Okay.
Not this one, though.
It's not that kind of story, is it?
So, no, Wilt Chamberlain left the NBA and went to the ABA to be the player coach of the San Diego Conquistadors, right?
Geez, that's a name.
Okay. And so the Conquistadors came to Greensboro to play the Cougars in the Coliseum. My dad was still working at News 2 at the time. And Woody's boy tagged along because Dad said, want to meet Wilt Chamberlain? Absolutely. So we go to the Greensboro Coliseum. Before the game, Chamberlain's agreed to do a little media availability. That's what we call it today. And Chamberlain got off the bus. He was wearing a silk shirt that must have been made by 10 million silkworms because it was the biggest shirt I'd ever seen on a man in my life. He had a pair of silk pants on. And Joe, He was wearing Huarache sandals.
Actual legit Huaraches, not the Nikes.
No, not the Nikes, the legit Huaraches. Okay. And I thought, this is the biggest human being I'd ever seen. Right. And my dad interviewed him. And then we stayed and watched like the first half of the game, first quarter of the game, I guess.
Yeah.
And Wilt Chamberlain sat on the bench in the silk shirt made by 10 million silkworms, the silk khaki pants, and crossed his legs and never got up off the bench. Called a timeout one time and sat on the bench, and his team stood above him and talked. He talked to his team while sitting down. Wilt Chamberlain was just getting paid to be Wilt Chamberlain.
I love that.
Oh, my God.
I love that.
I'll never forget that.
I feel like FSU wants to get paid just for being FSU.
Oh, well, that was a nice transition.
I mean, put it right there for me, Wes. I was going to take it. Before we start, I feel like, and Giglio actually got into this. Yeah, I was too busy wanting to make jokes yesterday.
Okay.
About Florida State because I think they deserve to be made fun of, given the last year and a half of them being a pain in the ass. That's me. I'm editorializing here, not Wes Durham, voice of the ACC network. The thing that Joe referenced, and it's something that we have to take seriously, is that Georgia Tech has the potential to be a problem.
No question.
Okay.
Yeah. Georgia Tech's one of about 3 or 4 schools, and I'm with Giglio all the way on this. There are about 3 or 4 schools that are going to be a problem because the teams that have depth and the potential to get to the college football playoff may play one of those 3 or 4 teams, and they could derail the entire operation.
Mm-hmm.
Because some teams can afford to have 1 loss, some can afford to have 2 losses, some might be able to afford to have even 3.
If you're in the SEC, yeah, you can afford to have 3.
I'm not sure I think Georgia is about the only one that could get there with 3.
Okay.
Disagree.
Okay. Who else?
I mean, it's of the Georgia Tech caliber, but like a Kentucky, a Tennessee.
They can't get there with 3. I agree with that.
They can. Their schedule is such.
You think Tennessee can get there with 3? Kentucky could get there with 3.
Yeah, I said
Florida could get there with
Florida
3.
has the toughest schedule in the history of college football, basically.
Yeah.
I said last week, Georgia Tech could actually make the playoff. It's crazy enough if with 3 losses because their schedule is so hard.
Yeah.
Unlikely they get there at 9-3. But those are the real best chances for somebody like the ACC because what Florida State's loss did was eliminate them, in my opinion, from probably getting an at-large bid. That's what hurt them.
I agree with that.
Week 0.
Okay.
Totally
Their
agree.
path now is they have to win the ACC. That's
Right.
what I think happened to them.
Well, and I think the other thing too is that it shows the ACC now, SMU and Nevada aside here, the ACC.
Hey, they rallied.
They did rally. Hey, they won. Okay.
on.
They didn't take the L to the Mountain West.
Yeah.
But I would say this, and Giglio, I don't know how you feel about this yet. I don't think we talked about this in Charlotte. If the ACC is going to show its depth, it's got to happen in the first 3 weeks.
Yep.
If they're going to show it, they got to start this weekend, and it's got to go for the first 3. And if they show the depth, then they're going to be a part of the narrative. If they don't, then they're going to fight for every scrap they get off the table the rest of the year. That's my opinion. Because I think people are going to make their minds up after the first couple of weeks.
They always do. I'll tell you one that's kind of important too. And I know what happened last year because we could say these things, right? Florida State goes out and beats LSU last year. And I'm telling you, no one got less credit for beating LSU
than Florida State. Absolutely.
State. Yep. Right?
Yep.
The guy won the Heisman, back in the day, he beat the Heisman Trophy winner, meant something. No.
And in October, nobody wanted to give Florida State nothing for that win.
No.
Nothing.
So I'll say this with that caveat. I think it's super important that Notre Dame figures out a way, that Riley Leonard figures out a way to beat Mike Elko. You don't want Texas A&M and that math later in the year. Just as we're sitting here going with Tennessee and State, that transitive property, for whatever reason with the ACC, it always works against them. And it never really works for them. Right? I think it was it Jeff Brom or Manny Diaz who made I think it was Manny Diaz who made a great point about how
Diaz.
Louisville absolutely took Notre Dame to the woodshed last year.
Yeah.
And nobody ever even gave Louisville credit for beating Notre Dame in the way that they did and ending Notre Dame's dominance over the ACC. So, it's all good for us to talk about these things, but I think you're right, Wes, in the sense that you just have to pile them up and give people no reason to sit there and question you. And It starts. I think it starts next week with the Wolfpack and Tennessee.
No question. I think there are two things that come to mind. One, the great football statesman of the state of New Jersey, Greg Schiano. Got to chop wood. We're just going to chop wood if you're the ACC. Okay. Yep. Number two, Brent Key's style of play is the mentality the ACC has to have. Physicality. The ACC has to just batter and bruise people and say, okay, we're going to come get this even though you don't want us to have this. And it needs to be a blue-collar football league. Now, you can win with speed and you can do it with flash and all the other things, but the mentality of the winning has to be in a nature where you go, because what's the most important thing that came out of Saturday was Georgia Tech stopping Florida State's offense and running the ball on a defense that we've been told would be one of the 2 or 3 best in the ACC.
I'm curious, as we kind of get a sense of what the expanded college football playoff is going to look like and the implications of week 0. When do we stop calling it week 0 when we just make this thing week 1? I feel like college football decision makers are going to understand real quick once the playoffs starts. They probably want to move that first round up a week. And in order to do that, you're probably going to have to start the college football season for real. None of this week 0 business before Labor Day, like for real.
Well, and I think we talked about this about a year ago. I mean, this go along with the integration of the 9 conference games across the Power 4 conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may be 6 years before we get there, but somewhere in the next 4 to 7 years, we're going to start playing 9 conference games across the board. Everybody's going to play the same number, and then you're going to have this. They'll be, instead of how many 4 games or whatever there was last weekend, we'll have 34 games.
Yeah.
Or 40-some games. Because here's the thing. You're going to want to get away from, and look, look, Bill Hancock, Rich Clark, whoever made these decisions, this opening round of the CFP being played on campuses is, to me, one of the most unique wires in the expanded playoff. And yet it's going to be stolen because the CFP elected to play opposite the NFL.
Yeah.
And the Kansas City Chiefs are playing that weekend. And I don't know what kind of year they're going to have. It doesn't really matter at this point. But the fact you're even trying to oppose the NFL on that day is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if we're going to continue that narrative, then we need to back the season up and back the playoff up a week or so. Mm-hmm. And again, it's funny. Last 5 years, nobody's talked about exam schedules anymore.
Weird, huh?
Oh my God, just went
away.
How
that works.
I mean, we haven't talked about exams. We haven't talked about it. The minute we have Portland NIL, Giglio, nobody's brought up that exam schedule thing anymore.
Hey, bless Debbie Yao at the Sports Podcast Festival. Giglio had to correct her from time to time. Not correct her, but just remind her, you don't have to call them student athletes anymore.
Oh, did she go student athletes again?
She did.
I mean,
she's
per default.
Elon grad. Way to go, Debbie. Elon in the house. Let's go.
Joe was unable to procure a ECU story out of
Debbie had been so good for like 20, 30 minutes. The last thing I want to do in that situation is like, so, hey, how did you manage to get kicked out of ECU?
By the way, did you ask her about UConn? Just thought, I'm sure that's
one of her favorites.
Well, it's funny you met. I had jotted that down for something to talk about between me and Giglio, but since you brought it up, because I guess college realignment never sleeps.
No, it doesn't.
Brett Yormark has to make sure that the Big 12 is being discussed one way or the other. It's
crazy.
Like,
why is he waiting until 2031? That's the part because of the TV deal.
Yeah. I mean, you can't do anything right now. Nobody wants to cut the pie.
No.
Okay.
I mean, you can hop on the phone to the Florida State Capitol and check in with those guys. They'll tell you nobody wants to cut the pie.
So quick context here. The Big 12 had a preliminary meeting about the possibility of adding UConn to the conference.
Must have been a hell of a fruit basket, by the way.
I mean, again, more context. The UConn, if you thought SMU's been desperate to join a Power 5 league, never forget UConn and Cincinnati at some point in time were, as the kids would say today, trying to rizz up the ACC. And they had sent like a Derek Jeter-esque gift basket to the ACC to be like, hey, consider us, right? The problem with UConn has always been around football. And football, basketball's great. Would UConn be awesome in the ACC? Of course it would for basketball.
God,
that's not why these moves are made. And I find it kind of weird that the Big 12 is so desperate to add that they're willing to bank on a school that A, has been pure shit in football for the longest time. B, try to sell Big 12 basketball with a guy in Hurley that might not be there for much longer after he had flirted with the Lakers.
Right.
So Hurley's time in UConn, I don't need to relitigate what UConn is. Are they a blue blood or are they not? But UConn's success in basketball seems to be a fickle thing.
Right.
So I find it odd that they want to do this rather than just kind of hold steady, unless it's Brett Yormark's entire plan is to, keep the people going, keep people intrigued, zig while everybody else is zagging. If that's his move, okay, sure. But I'm not really moved by this UConn talk.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think we all have to understand there's going to be plenty of speculation in the next 3-4 years. But the reality of it is we're probably now settling into a bit of a routine, at least for until we get to 28, probably. And I know that's not that far down the road. Snap your fingers, will be at 28. But I think that's where the negotiations with some of these leagues and their television partners begin. How does that impact? I mean, look, obviously the ACC has a February timeline with ESPN on a renewal. But the idea, or an option, I should say, not a renewal. But from that standpoint forward, everything kind of marches in order. Beginning in I would say 28, 29 is when it starts for the 29, 30 renewals, and it goes 30, 31, 32, and then there's the ACC in 36. So the idea of that kind of timeline playing itself out, there's too much uncertainty right now. We don't even have overriding governance yet. You guys know that. I mean, we don't have the bigger shell to go with the smaller shells that split the FBS or the Power Four away from whatever, and Charlie Baker's got work to do there, and we still got to get, as we've said time and again, we still got to get presidents and chancellors comfortable with what's happening here. And they're going to have to make some tough decisions on their own.
Isn't this a mistake UConn's already made once before, leaving the Big East?
Yeah.
Why would they? I can see the Big 12 being like, you know what? You give us a chance to play UConn, Arizona, Kansas in some sort of round robin.
No question.
I
Yeah.
like that. I like that idea.
Sure.
But really, if you're UConn after what you went through, and their success is not fickle, sir. You know how I feel about the Huskies.
I know. When they're in, they're in. When they're not,
I don't
not.
care. When we're in, we win the damn thing, man.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Still a little bit on the fickle side, but I stand by my statement on that one. But nothing.
Give me that all day, man.
But I have to catch
you didn't
myself,
get in,
though.
So what?
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool.
I have to catch myself, though, in saying that none of this makes sense. I mean, that ship sailed on anything that makes sense with conference realignment. So
correct.
If that's what they want to do, then
they
so
were
be it.
Really in the wilderness when they left the Big East the first time around.
I agree.
It was really a bad idea.
I mean, heck, Gonzaga's flirted with joining some of these leagues.
See,
as well. I think they would be exposed more than anybody else. But
right. But real quick on Gonzaga, and we're way off the grid here for what we were talking about.
Well, yeah.
But it's a podcast.
Baby.
It's a podcast. Gonzaga would be a willing participant if there's a basketball only operation with UConn for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Again.
Yormark's plan may not just be stores. Yormark's plan may also involve Spokane.
That's fine. That's fine. And I get that basketball can move the needle. I think people have understood that there's an untapped money-making opportunity there when it comes to basketball, especially with women's basketball as well. So anyway, we get off the tangent and whatnot. We started the show. Giglio had written for OG fans today, the newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for OG fans, go to ogtrianglemedia.com. Joe,
Gotta get my credit card.
got an overall view of the ACC, but focused on NC State and what they start on Thursday against Western Carolina. So we covered that a little bit. Yesterday we got into Carolina and Mac's insistence on 2 QBs. Joe's point was simply Mac is the master of PR. He'd rather you be talking about the quarterback situation than anything else related to this. And I do feel like Carolina, Minnesota is part of what we started with, in that if Jim Phillips is gonna, walk away over the next 3 weeks happy, it's even games like this Carolina, Minnesota game that matter.
I agree. Totally. I think Giglio's exactly right. I think the reality of it is Carolina needs to go to Minneapolis and win the game. How they win the game doesn't matter. They need to win the game. Do I think they need to look a lot better in the defensive front because Jeff Collins is excited about the defensive front? Yeah, I do. I think that whether it's Max Johnson, Connor Harrell, Jacoby Criswell, any of them, I mean, you can go back to Jason Stanisiak. I don't care which other Mac Brown quarterback you want to go with.
I do think we're going to end the season with Criswell being the quarterback.
But I mean,
that's been my overall Carolina take.
They need to be efficient at that position. And oh, by the way, hand the ball to Omarion Hampton.
There's that.
You got the best tight end room in the league, though. See, that's the thing. You got the best group of tight ends. I think you're really good at wide receiver, too. I don't think you're over the top, but I think you're really good. I think you've got some playmakers there. I think the Ship kid is going to be a really talented player for them. But you got one of the best running backs in the country. I mean, the list doesn't go very long before you get to Omarion Hampton, maybe 3 spots. And for me, the old Darryl Royal dance with what brung you thing. I mean, see how this goes. And Minnesota, look, it's a whole new PJ Fleck row the boat deal up there. A lot of change. And run the ball. Go run, like Brent Key said to Katie George after the game, run the ball. He put the whole Clay, Alabama on it, didn't he? It was awesome.
He did. He really did. He put that inflection on there.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly's somewhere going, damn, how do I get that accent?
Yeah, exactly.
My family.
I think you got to run the ball, though, Giglio. Yeah. I think it's not real complicated at Chapel Hill.
Again,
Joe's spidey senses are tingling now when it comes to the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to see kind of like, because you're now in football mode, because I know in the summer you're like, I'm not there yet. Now that you're in football mode, I've noticed that your spidey senses are tingling.
What's your concern here, Giglio?
My concern is, quite frankly, our friend Lawrence Cunningham should have made a change at head coach. And I think they need that new direction and that new energy. Maybe Jeff Collins. Jeff Collins is that answer for them. I sincerely doubt that, though. I think they're treading water. I think they're a program that's going in place. The way that they finished the last 2 years, NC State fans would be absolutely apoplectic if their team had gone 2-4 and 0-4 to close seasons with Phillip Rivers, and a chance at the college football playoff. Like, they would be completely and totally besides themselves. Like, just, there would be, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I get you. I hear you.
Never mind a Clemson, never mind a Florida State, never mind any other program that has actual standards.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this kind of comes down to for me is, I'm looking at you, Carolina, going, what is your standard? What is your goal? What is your purpose here? And by the status quo, you're saying to me, the money people really like Mac. And remember, Mac has earned enough capital with us from Reign 1 and the first 2 years of Reign 2 to let him potentially play this thing out. And I quite honestly, I think that's backwards thinking. And I think it's thinking that's going to cost them. And I think it's thinking that potentially could cost them like pretty early this year. I worry for them that this game is tougher than it looks. You also smacked them last year at your place. So you're probably thinking in the back of your head, oh, we'll do that again.
Yeah, but not until the third quarter. You didn't get them until early in the fourth.
And then you got to start thinking like James Madison, you and I and Joe, and I forgot who we had this conversation with. My brain is really screwed up these days. I don't even do drugs. There's always that one game, whether it's Bunning or Fedora,
right,
or Carl Torbush, Furman for Carl Torbush. It was South Florida for Bunning. Fedora, it was the game at ECU. There's always that one game where it becomes obvious even to everyone
that it's a wrap,
that it's over.
Yeah.
And my man, the Duke's coming to town. James Madison over at, I could see a sleepy, half-empty Kenan Stadium, and everyone looking around going, oh man, the party's over. How did this happen? How did we go from, 6-0, number 10, they're in the country, whatever they were, feeling froggy, to back to, well, basketball starts, that the kid that we got from Vanderbilt, man, he's got 8 names, but he could shoot the lights out of the basketball.
Then Alan Lubin.
Yeah. That's my concern as someone who's seen it. Now, they might go gangbusters and tear up Minnesota because confidence is a hell of a drug. Mac is an unbelievable coach in August and September. Facts on facts on facts.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But that's where I'm seeing where they are right now. And it really is end of Chuck kind of days for me. End of, maybe even TOB kind of days where Debbie's looking at it and going, you're not seeing the next step, and I am.
If Mac Brown says happy Thanksgiving and we'll weigh y'all next week, then
Or I just see two teams celebrating.
Classic Larry Fedora line. I just saw two teams celebrating out there. Wes, before we let you go.
Sorry, Wes, there was no question in there.
There was
really
just
No, but the funny thing is, see, here's the interesting part. I'll wrap on Joe. I'll be quick with this. I think you see a perspective that is unique, and I think you bring an interesting perspective, because here's the thing: people don't really understand the show and when the show stops until it's already stopped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Giglio, and you and I have seen shows that we knew were going to stop, and nobody else knew they were going to stop. I knew when Paul Hewitt was going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew what was going on that led to ultimately the Paul Hewitt show stopping.
But you know what? We've also been wrong about those things, because I also thought I knew when the Kevin Keats show was going to stop at NC State. In
Surprises
DC.
at every corner.
And there was a surprise.
Who knows, man?
Who knows?
That's exactly right.
You were saying about Hampton. Maybe you make this commitment to the oldest of old school football.
Run the damn
Run
ball.
the football.
Telling you what, man.
And Collins is the true answer on defense. That schedule is light enough. Maybe you end up.
They get to 4-0,
3-10-2. Who knows?
They get to 4-0 to start the year, and then all of a sudden they get they get Pitt coming to them to open conference play. Come on, man.
Wes, only thing I'll add to this conversation before we say goodbye. I'm a little disappointed. I did not see you at the Kirk Cousins water park day.
Yeah, that was a team-only event.
So they did not invite. They did not
Team-only
invite
event. Yeah. No.
Wait, now
to
they
go
have
down a
new
water
coach.
slide.
The new coach doesn't like you either.
No, I like Raheem. No,
Okay,
Raheem and I get along
saying.
great. We're great. I mean,
Okay.
Arch and I are excited about the year. Preseason be damned. We're excited about the year.
Yeah, I saw those Kirk Cousins water park days. I was like, oh, that looks like a lot of fun. Was Wes on a water?
No, I'm not a big water park guy. However, I will tell you, they got 54 holes at the same place they went to the water park. There, Giglio.
Oh, I see.
Nice.
So there again.
Well, look, man, all I'm telling you right now is you might as well just shut that shit down in Atlanta, because Bryce Young had an incredible one series in the last preseason game. It's a wrap, Wes. I hope you know it's a wrap in the NFC South.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, man. We appreciate you as always. We'll talk to you later.
All right, guys.
Row back. You don't know me like that, but we do know they've got officially licensed gear these days. So check out rowback.com, RHOBACK.com. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. Giglio is rocking the Rowback right now. He's not wearing the SMU. I believe they also have LSU. Actually, I saw a Rowback polo when I was walking up to the studio today on Fayetteville Street. It was the NC. Like, not the state, but it was the N, the C with the star, the flag.
Yeah, their
thing.
OG one. Yeah. Their original one, not an actual branded OG, but yes.
I really like that polo.
Yes.
That's
very nice.
That's a good looking polo. And
unfortunately, that one is sold out. But
is it? I think you usually bring it
because
back.
it was one of their original issues. So they have the Land of the Sky, they have Hillsborough Street, they've got the Tar Heel one, which is also really good too. So they got them all, man. Like the new schools. I noticed they had Florida State. I actually considered getting a Florida State one to go with my SMU, just to
should have
out of solidarity with the ACC.
You absolutely should have done that. So check it out, rowback.com. Use that promo code OG20. Big thanks to Hometown Realty. MyHTR.com is the website. Joe alluded to this yesterday, and we cannot hammer this point enough. You see a lot of advertisements for guaranteed offers, this ease of selling. But here's the thing about those guaranteed offers. You're leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
So you might be worried about things like the commission that comes from a sale or a purchase from a traditional realtor like Hometown Realty. Trust us when we tell you that is a lot less than what you're essentially leaving on the table when you're probably taking anywhere between 15 to 20% less than what you could with a guaranteed offer.
Plus, you want to be with people who know the actual area and get you in the best spots, know about school districts, all those other good things that you're probably not going to get from Dr. Google. So check them out, myhtr.com.
I mean, who's to say that person might not be an AI construct? I really don't know. I don't know what to believe these days. Yacht Rock Enter Sandman. You could have told me.
Yacht Rock Allison Chains. Did I send that to you?
Somebody sent me a Yacht Rock 9 Inch Nails we will get to in Hey Joe. Big thanks to Butcher's Market. Check them out online, thebutchersmarkets.com. You can get all your tailgating needs there. Whether you're looking for specific spices, rubs to put on that meat, you're looking for specific wood to smoke, you're looking for specific charcoal, they have that there. And of course, the most important part to all of this is the meat you put on the grill. It is top notch. So check out the Butcher's Market. Speaking of meat, quality meat. I don't know where your brain went, Joe.
Let's
take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hill.
I don't know where Joe's brain went, but we're also, in our 40s, but we still think like 13-year-olds. It's fine. That's the male aesthetic, I guess, sometimes. When you go to Happy and Hail, this is not some mystery meat.
No.
It's not the pink sludge. When they have a burger bowl, we are talking truly great crumbled ground beef that's put in the burger bowl. The protein bowl, we're talking whole chicken.
The chicken's really good.
Chicken's excellent. Chopped up, ready to go, put in the bowls. These are whole ingredients. These are legit ingredients. No skimping at Happy and Hail. So go check them out. Happy and Hail. Download the app so that way you can save on some goodies. You can order on the app, be in and out of their various locations, including North Hills, Six Forks up in North Raleigh. And of course, we will have them back at PNC Arena for the start of the hockey season, which we're not too far away from the start of the hockey season. I'm very excited about that. So go check it out. Happy and Hail.
Topics, stack it up. Giglio, throw back it up. Well, I know what we'll do. A lightning round.
So much to get into, Joe.
Gets me every time.
So much to get into. Cooper Flagg, who's going to be at Duke. Duke is a Nike school. But Cooper Flagg will not be repping Nike. Well, he will be repping Nike when he's suited up, when he's wearing Duke gear, when he's playing games, practice, all that kind of stuff.
We'll see.
He will be in Nike gear.
We'll see.
That's part of the rules. That's part of the Nike contract. However,
whose rules?
That's the apparel contract that they have.
But whose rules?
The NCAA's?
Like, there's no, it's the school.
It's the school's rules.
So,
but real quick, Cooper Flagg is signed with New Balance. Cooper Flagg coming from Maine. New Balance is a Maine company. It's a marriage made in heaven. They put out the advertising campaign and everything else. It's cool. It's like New Balance. Was it like Pick Intelligently or something like that?
I think I sent you the ad. They have an ad already.
They have the ad
to you.
Yeah.
No, I saw, obviously I don't know Duke's contract with Nike. I have seen NC State's contract with Adidas. It is extremely detailed.
Yes.
Okay. Particularly with football, there is a thing called spatting where you put tape over your shoes. They like prohibit you to tape over the Adidas logo. Like it's literally written into the contract. There's a whole big thing. But what I'm saying to you is that contract's between NC State and Adidas.
Yes.
That contract's not between Cooper Flagg and Nike. It's Duke and Nike.
Steve Wiseman.
There is absolutely nothing. There is absolutely in this litigious world.
Yeah.
In this litigious world.
Yeah.
If Cooper Flagg really wanted to be about that life, he'd show up with his own signature shoe for the first game of the year. If he wanted to be about that life, the question is, does he want to be about that life?
Doesn't seem that way. I know Wiseman over at the NNO got a statement from Duke in relation to this news from Adrian Wojnarowski about this New Balance deal. That no, he's wearing Nike. Okay. When he's repping Duke, when they're playing games, they're practicing, all that kind of stuff, part of the contract is he wears it. And I don't know if is that part of the agreement that when you show up to Duke? Again, these are things that I might not be aware of, but Duke is adamant about the fact that Cooper Flagg is wearing Nike when he's repping Duke.
I'm going to be interested to see who ultimately challenges this rule, because you see this in the NBA all the time.
Of course.
Anthony Edwards wears Adidas.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan has the NBA brands. What Jordan is paying is for you to wear the jersey that has his logo on it. He's not paying you for what you're going to wear on your feet.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that with all of these lawsuits and contracts and everything else, that no one, and Russell Wilson came the closest. Russell Wilson wore Nike at NC State because he was convinced all of the injuries that were going on in the Tom O'Brien era were linked to Adidas. So he refused to wear it. Yeah. He would spat his shoes. He'd peel the logo off, black it out, all these other things. But he absolutely wore Nike cleats at NC State. We've seen this before.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you is legally, the players have rights. Why they haven't figured it out yet, I don't know. Okay.
Mhm.
But if I had a big New Balance deal and I was New Balance and I was trying to compete with Nike, I would absolutely have that kid show up at Cameron Indoor Stadium and I would pull a Debbie Yao and I would say, come arrest me. Come take me off the floor if you feel that strongly about it. But you're making money with Nike, not me.
I think all of this is entirely overblown, that I don't really think that folks are watching Cooper Flagg play and looking at his shoes and deciding what the deal is. It's all in the marketing.
Sure.
It's in what Cooper Flagg's going to put on social media. It's what New Balance is going to put out there in terms of
to
marketing.
make your mark, man. Jordan, you say this, but no one's looking. But back in 1986, guess who was looking? Everyone at the guy, because when the NBA fined him for wearing the wrong color shoes. Think about that for a second.
It's not the 80s anymore.
I understand that.
There is no gatekeeping anymore. All that stuff can be bypassed.
That was gatekept by the league, by the way.
I get that.
Yeah.
But now it's such. When I say gatekeeping, I mean it was the league through the media, through advertising. Now, because everything is flat and social media has changed everything, and there's a literal direct connection between players and the audience, you can bypass what you do on the basketball court and speak directly to the people who are following him. Duke knows this.
There's still free advertising, though, those games.
I get that. And for the shoe heads, look, if I want to get a cheap, easy pop on social media, all I need to do is go to Cameron Indoor Stadium and take a picture of the shoes and put it out there. And that's
Tar Heel for life. Yeah.
That's a cheap, easy pop, man.
Caleb Love.
Right. What I'm getting at here is I'm not quite sure that Duke is all that interested in getting in the way of a transcendent talent, they believe, and getting in the way of that kind of stuff that would prevent him from playing basketball. They want to win basketball games.
Yeah.
Okay. And I also,
all the more reason for him to be the pioneer who does it.
Maybe that happens. Maybe things might change in that regard, because one thing that Duke has always been good at, and I'm gonna give him a lot of credit, and Mike Krzyzewski understood this when the things were changing. When they were bringing on Zion and all those guys, their marketing pitch was, you put your brand with our brand, not to go like full, Diddy in what song is that?
Your friends, my friends.
Yeah, give me one more chance. It's like, yeah, you get your brand, I get my brand. Then again, I don't want to reference Diddy because I don't want a Diddy party. Problematic. I don't. You know what? Scrap that. Let's forget about Diddy. The point is, it's like a Marvel thing. The greatest crossover event of all time. You bring our brand, your brand, put them together. We can make a lot of money together.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's
sentiment.
how they're going.
I'm just telling you. I'm not picking on Duke here. I have literally seen the contract that NC State has with Adidas and the number of pages that are dedicated to what you can and cannot do, which of course, where is Jeffrey Kessler when you need him?
Yeah.
Right? And this goes back to former football players who've told me, I got to the NFL and I got $15,000 with Nike to wear their shoes. I was a nobody. But I got $15,000. Yeah, that helped. Mm-hmm. All I had to do was wear a wristband and wear the shoes that I wanted to wear. Bonus. Look at that. Yeah. So all these players should have that right as well.
We've got a lot to get to. It's a lightning round.
Speaking of the NFL, like clockwork.
Your lawyer wife would not be very happy with your take on that segment. I'm just going to say that.
That's fine. Okay. The whole thing about lawyering and why they get paid hundreds of dollars for billable hours and they charge you is because
they can argue any side.
Yeah.
They just know the rules.
It's not even that they know the rules, is that there's legal speak. It's a language you go to law school to learn and you speak it amongst your crew. It's a great boondoggle, man. Great boondoggle. Speaking of the NFL, like clockwork, we talk about something, we hit publish on the podcast, and several hours later, it becomes dated.
Okay, what happened?
CeeDee Lamb finally signed a deal with the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
After Jerry Jones was being a pain in the ass this entire process, the entire time.
He got his money.
Well, which gets to the central question here. And it's almost like I'm right. I really don't know how else to put it. I'm right. So CeeDee Lamb agreed to a 4-year deal, $138 million contract extension. It's a record $36 million in signing bonus. And it will make him the second highest paid wideout behind Justin Jefferson. It's a 4-year contract extension. So CeeDee Lamb's people wanted 5 years. The Cowboys wanted 3 years. They ended up at 4 years.
Look at what they found.
What? And I can't. It bothers me that we do, especially in the NFL, and we're kind of seeing this with the Carolina Hurricanes and Jarvis a little bit. We have gotten so formulaic when it comes to contracts. You can spit this stuff into a spreadsheet, look at your comps. Like Hometown Realty is probably looking at this going, why are you guys making this so complicated? We look at the comps on your street. We know what that house sold for. We know what this house sold for. We know your square footage versus their square footage. Beep, bop, boop, beep. Here's the number.
Math.
It's the same thing here with the NFL. It shouldn't be that complicated. So this is just classic. Jerry Jones loves a story. He loves the circus. He loves the attention. And it's like, buddy, we knew you were going to give CeeDee Lamb this deal. So why are we doing this song and dance? Why are we doing this?
Did CeeDee Lamb just not want to practice this year?
No, that has nothing to do with it. He just wanted his money. And Jerry Jones, for whatever reason, decided to be a pain in the ass. Sometimes, look, man, sometimes there is a time and place for foreplay. But when it comes to contracts, ain't no time for foreplay. Just get down to the business.
Get it done.
Get it done.
Yeah.
And then smoke your cigarette after the fact. NFL, man, never ceases to amaze me with the stupidity. Speaking of foreplay in the NFL, who doesn't love the chain gang? Chain gang is back for another season.
The old guys?
Yeah, man. I could go full Rihanna. Whips and chains excite me. And for some people, the chain gang excites them. They didn't want laser measurements with the NFL.
The laser.
They wanted the old school dudes just jogging out there with the chain and putting it down and all that stuff. Like I always like to tell you, Joe, there's something for everybody on the internet. And in the NFL, there are some people who really ride for the chain gang. And good news.
Give me concussions on kickoffs and chains.
Bring back NFL films. He got jacked up. 90 minutes of rock music while these guys get popped hard and suffer life-altering changes.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
I sent you the kids' version of when the bodies hit the floor.
So ridiculous.
It was pretty ridiculous, yeah. Anyway. So the NFL has tabled, according to the Washington Post, I saw this in the Washington Post this morning, the NFL is going to table implementing full laser measurements of first downs. They're still going to bring the chain gang out there.
Awesome.
They have said that by 2025, they can go to the laser measurements that they were experimenting with in the preseason, but still utilize the chain gang as a fail-safe. Here's one thing that people have complained about with the laser measurements in the preseason. They took forever.
Oh.
It was almost like it was quicker for you to just trot out the old dudes, put the chain down, see where you're at, and then get them off the field.
You're probably not old enough to remember when it took forever to use a credit card.
No,
and they had to like hand write it over.
They had the carbon paper
and all that other stuff. And now you don't even think about it. You're like, boop, boop, on your way.
Yeah. So
once they figure out the technology, obviously, I think they will obviously replace it.
Yes.
The real issue isn't the chain gang. It's the officials who don't know how to spot the ball and end up moving the ball. And there's a lot of fudging on what ultimately becomes a decision made by a matter of inches.
Mm-hmm. Good point. It's a good point.
It's a lightning round. It's the lightning round.
The NFL, sometimes I wonder if we're just doing this wrong. But then again, we're not the Kelsey brothers. Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce have reached new heights in their podcast deal, Joe.
I see what you did there.
You see what I did there? They have signed a new podcast deal with Wondery. It's owned by Amazon. They're no longer with Wave Sports and Entertainment. It's worth more than $100 million over 3 years.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
I see this, and you know what my first thought was? $100 million. See, I would go, damn, $100 million? We are set, buddy. Let's go. But Joe's first thought would be, but the taxes.
No. My first thought is we need to NBA player scale that thing. That's how, remember, all the NBA contracts got out of hand because it was like, hey, you know, Michael Jordan's the best player in the league. He averages 35 points a game. Well, I average 20. So that means I should get 2/3 of what Michael Jordan makes. Well, no one's paying to see you play. So
no, that's not the case. So congratulations to the Kelseys. Every time I hear that the podcast business is on the struggle bus, I laugh when I see deals like this. There's always money in the banana stand, man. Always money in the banana stand.
The lightning round.
You know, the football season started up, but people are still fascinated by the college football season started up, yet people are still fascinated by Michigan, notice of allegations, and Connor Stallions. So today,
are they?
Yeah, dude. I was listening to the Yahoo Sports College Football podcast with Dan Wetzel, Ross Dellinger, and Pat Forty. And they were hyped about the Connor Stallions Netflix documentary that was about to drop. It dropped today.
Today. Okay.
And I'm going to ask you this question. Is it a coincidence that Netflix has this doc drop today and the day before we got information about the notice of allegations for Michigan? Is it a coincidence?
No.
Was it in partnership with Netflix to generate interest in this deal?
I mean, I don't know. I think the NCAA likes to try its case in public before they have it. Mm-hmm. So that's all those years, Charles Robinson at Yahoo and all these other things. Like, yeah, they calculate how they want to release the information and who they want to give it to and how it'll play out.
Okay. Just wanted to know.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense to me. Big thanks to Home Field. They just knocked it out of the park at the Sports Podcast Festival. Josh was slinging them hoodies. If you missed out on those hoodies, I'm sorry. But that doesn't mean you can't get a branded Home Field apparel hoodie right now on the website. Go to homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG24 to save 15% off your order. If you're watching on YouTube, you see the wonderful collection of North Carolina-based hoodies from State, Carolina, Duke, Wake Forest to App State and the Pirates. I will be purchasing that App State hoodie at some point.
Too good. Do you think Adam trusts us to find the appropriate Georgia hoodie or shirt for him?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean,
we'll have to do that.
I thought I did a pretty good job finding him that cigarette stained
golf shirt
that I found at Father and Son.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Like that
had
thing,
a pretty cool logo. It was like a Georgia golf logo.
It was
right?
It was a Georgia golf logo, and I say this thing probably came from the late 80s. I think it had enough sleeve space for you to roll up a pack of cigarettes in there.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, get those Marlboro Reds to go with the Georgia red, right? So
I feel like you're the Chuli's gum salesman today, by the way.
In what sense?
This is like your third cigarette reference of the program.
Which is funny because I was never a cigarette smoker. I tried it once.
One of the great bits in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. That was good. I mean, all my friends smoked in high school. I didn't smoke. So every time we would go for the old Cardinal Gibbons heads out there, where the big churches now, there used to be the diocese offices. And there was this hill that you could park and get behind and smoke before you went back to school. Nobody would see.
Oh, back when the trailer?
Yeah. Back when it was essentially a trailer park.
Which is essentially the Arnold Palmer golf course now.
There's that too. Yeah. All that stuff is now tied together. So yeah, we would go to, they called it the smoking hill. And after school, everybody would go back there.
It's probably like the 10th fairway.
Occasionally, the Franciscan monks, shout out to Brother Gary, would come back there and be like, you're not technically on campus, but I know what you're doing. So anyway, I digress. So go to homefield.com, homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG24.
We do love a divergent path on our home field reads.
We really do. We really love saving money as well. And you can save money on home and auto thanks to our friend Matt Davis over at State Farm. InsureGarner.com, theoginsurance.com, or call them at 919-779-8277, the official insurance provider of the Big 12.
Who you got this week in the Matt Davis 12 game of the week? North Dakota State at Colorado. So I'm telling you, man, it's got potential.
If Colorado loses,
it's got potential.
With the way things have been going for Dion, I would laugh. It would be very entertaining. Very entertaining. So call Matt Davis today, 919-779-8277. Did you all enjoy False Fall? Bet you did, because it's back to being hot again.
It's over.
If you're hanging out in the backyard, hey man, bug's still active. So hit up bugsbite.com, Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. You can bundle and save. Take care of the outside of your house with Mosquito Authority. Take care of the inside of your house with Pest Authority. So go to bugsbite.com to start saving today. Went to Two Roosters on Sunday. I got that peanut butter cookie. It was fantastic. Love when people tell us what flavors they've been getting at Two Roosters. Keep sending them to us. Go to tworoosters.com to find out what the flavors of the month are. Go to Two Roosters and be on the lookout for a little display with a QR code that sends you to the secret pint of the month club.
Only 4 more days for the peanut butter cookie.
I know.
Okay.
Go get the gallon, baby.
I need it.
Go do it. Go do that thing. tworoosters.com. Find out that ice cream. Sign up for the secret pint of the month club. You will not be disappointed. All right, let's get out of here on some Hey Joe. Let's go to the YouTube comment section from Steve. The one thing that fully united every single person at the podcast festival was the enjoyment of Georgia Tech beating Florida State. I chimed in. It was the cheapest pop you could get out of that crowd, although Kyle did point out, was it that or the full cast ranking of UNC as the worst P5 college in North Carolina? That one did pretty well, too. Yeah, no, you're right about that. Yeah, you were very serious football mode yesterday. And I was just here for the jokes when it came to Florida State. It brought people joy, Joe.
My guy Will was like, wasn't the whole point of yesterday's podcast to shit on Florida State? And I was like, well, yes, but you know, trying to fast forward.
That's a fair point. I'm all about advancement theory. Don't get me wrong. Kyle chimed in. Who was the first ACC school to play the yacht rock version of Enter Sandman after a Virginia Tech pick six or a fumble? I'm here for it. Somebody will do this.
I mean, State once played Hayes's Permar. It's 12 o'clock somewhere.
They did.
Why would? Well, they don't play Virginia Tech, so
that's true. That's true.
It's a problem.
From Corey, SMU came through in the end in Reno. It's tricky elevation to overcome.
Absolutely,
did not know that.
On the road.
Where can I buy one of those State Pack Pullers shirts? I believe you have to email the guy who's the engineering advisor for the group. I'll see if I can find an email for him.
Yeah,
I will respond to everybody. From Nathaniel. I want to be happy FSU lost, but all I can picture is Feinbaum sitting there smirking in his mom's basement. Well, man, that's a good point. From SYD, is fine good enough, though? That's in reference to, we can all laugh at Florida State, but they'll be fine. I mean, that's a valid point. I think to your point, as we talked about with Wes earlier, yeah, they're in a position where they're going to have to win the league, but it's still capable. You're also responding to Kyle's other about Malort. It tastes like sweaty foot. No. Yeah, no. It does.
Oh, no.
It does. It does taste like sweaty foot.
Oh, no.
And you're right about that. There's no doubt about that. And it looks like we'll say goodbye on this. It looks like we have gotten to the point where we have graduated from bluegrass covers of songs to people sending me strange AI, just brutal versions of popular songs. Like yesterday, we got the yacht rock version of Enter Sandman. Wolfpack Lamb chimed in with, and I can't believe I'm going to play this, an AI, I believe this is a yacht rock version of 9 Inch Nails' Closer.
Oh, no.
It's called 69 Inch Nails.
No.
I see what you did there.
Oh, no.
It's a yacht rock cover of Closer. Y'all know how I feel about Trent Reznor and 9 Inch Nails. I'm doing this for y'all.
You let me violate you. You let me desecrate you. You let me penetrate you. Help me, I broke apart my insides. Help me, I've got no soul to sell. Help me, the only thing that works for me. Help me get away from myself. I wanna fuck you like an animal. I wanna feel you from the inside. I wanna fuck you like an animal. My whole existence is flawed. You get me closer to God.
It's very rare that I say I wish we were still on radio, but I wish we were still on radio in order to have Jonathan Rand yacht rock or remix versions of songs now that we have this capability.
Who's to say we can't?
Because the whole rights thing is just kind of, plus, Rand can be.
Well, I was going to say he'll give it to us in 6 months.
So like that would be hysterical if we were still doing that on a daily basis.
The worst part about that
is it was good.
Is that it actually works.
It's good.
That's the worst part about these yacht rock AI covers, man. They work better than bluegrass, and since I have a hot spot, I have like a soft spot for yacht rock in general.
Yeah. The Rooster one's good too. You can say that one for tomorrow.
And the other sad part about it is because it's so 80s-tastic, Trent Reznor would probably respect a yacht rock version of some of his songs because he got his start in a new wave band back in the 80s. He was a keyboardist.
That makes a lot of sense.
It was like an Oingo Boingo ripoff back in the day out of Cleveland.
Makes a lot of sense.
Makes a whole ton of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to recover from that one. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We will see you tomorrow.